Hey everyone, welcome back to your Lifehouse. We're glad that you took time out of your week to be here this week. If you are new, this is your first time stepping into this Lifehouse location, Element as a ministry, I want to welcome you. Thank you for taking the risk. Thank you for taking the chance. Someone you love and cared about, someone not cared, that would be past tense, someone you love and care about invited you to be here this week. And I think God has you here for a reason. And so I hope that you will find something that will both speak to your heart and fill your soul, because it's my hope that as you're a part of this Lifehouse, you will find a place of grace, a place of listening, because we want you to be known, valued, and loved. And the source of that known, valued, and loved is found in your coaches that are there, the peers that are around the room. Tonight we are wrapping up our installment on relational vampires. And this week is kind of touchy. We're going to talk about hypocrites. Man, you hear that word. That word gets thrown out everywhere. Hey, you're such a hypocrite. Don't be a hypocrite. I think the source of that is why we don't like that term is at the core of who we are, we really value and appreciate people that are genuine, people that are real. We've talked about it before, how this whole social media thing of be real is how it's gained traction, because it's supposed to just catch you in life where you're at, no posing, nothing like that at all. And so this concept of catching someone being who they say they aren't, it does a couple things. It puts a lot of pressure on people to be perfect, because I was thinking about this week is this idea of being a hypocrite and pointing a finger. People do it very quickly if they catch you making a mistake. Like if I say that I'm a follower of Jesus, but I have a conversation with you and I'm harsh or I'm judgmental, we have to leave room for me to make a mistake, because following Christ doesn't mean I'm going to be a perfect human. And even if it has nothing to do with following Christ, if I say that I'm environmentally minded, but you catch me dropping something out of my pocket that litters the ground, you're like, what a hypocrite. No, it's like I made a mistake. Or like maybe I was driving down the road eating a cheeseburger and I spill it all over myself, and out of anger, I chuck it out the window, and you see me littering. It's like, what a hypocrite. He says he cares about the planet, but look what he's doing. I was struggling with this idea of where it crosses the line and from being a person making a mistake to hypocrisy. And there's a word that we use in church that I think is going to create a ton of clarity in this. And it's going to give you some freedom as a follower of Christ, and it should also bring some conviction in your heart in the way that you treat others as a follower of Christ. And if you're not a follower of Christ, it should be intriguing to you to go, oh, Christianity is about this. Following Christ is about this, because I thought it was all about perfection and judgmentalism and pointing fingers, all those things. This word that brings freedom, this word that will bring kind of a relaxing margin for you is grace. I think grace is where we find the place where people that are following Christ, if they don't have grace for both themselves and for others, they'll find themselves in a seat of hypocrisy. And the reason I settled on this is I look at how Jesus treated people, because throughout Scripture, when you're reading Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, it chronicles the life of Christ. We get to witness how he interacts with people that aren't followers of Jesus, people that are close followers of Jesus, churchy people, and we get to see how he interacts with all of these people, and he does it so beautifully, and he knows when to insert grace. Last week, we talked about how there was a woman that was brought to the feet of Jesus where people were being very judgmental, and Jesus was full of grace for her, and he wasn't full of finger pointing and accusation. He was full of truth, but it was truth with love. And when you hear this word grace, it's what makes following Christ unique, because you'll hear this word in church. I would hope any church that you go to, you would hear this word grace a lot. And grace is simply this. Grace is being given the greatest gift when you're deserving of the complete opposite. So when I look at my life as a human, if you would look at the list of the things that I've done, there's a long laundry list of all the mistakes that I've made. And that's just the last month. And because of grace, Christ is offering me forgiveness. He's offering me a pardon. He's offering to take the punishment that I deserve because of the way that I live. And that is what we look at when it comes to talking about biblical grace. And what we find in Scripture when it comes to hypocrites, their lives aren't really full of much grace. See, the people that Jesus is the most harsh with in Scripture are usually these hypocrites that are not full of grace. The people that brought the sinful woman before Jesus were the church leaders, and they were the same ones that in Matthew chapter 23, Jesus addresses in a pretty harsh manner. He says this, chapter 23, verse 13, "Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites." Man, if there's something I would not want to be called by the Son of God, it would be a hypocrite. "You shut the door of the kingdom of heaven in people's faces. You yourselves do not enter, nor will you let those enter who are trying to." So he's like, look, you make it so hard to get in. You don't even go through with the own rules that you say are necessary. And not only that, but there's people that are trying and you like hold the door closed. You don't give them access. "Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites. You travel over land and sea to win a single convert. And when you have succeeded, you make them twice as much a child of hell as you are." He's like, once they get to the point that they're ready to follow God, you corrupt their hearts. "Woe to you, blind guides. You say if anyone swears by the temple, it means nothing, but anyone who swears by the gold of the temple is bound by that oath." He goes through all of these things and he gets into these really, hurtful, hard things that these people needed to hear. But you see, Jesus, when it comes to hypocrites, to people that are not full of grace and compassion for others, who we talked about compassion last week, he is very harsh. He says this, "Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites." He says it over and over again, you hypocrites. "You clean the outside of the cup and dish, but inside they are full of greed and self-indulgence. Blind Pharisee, first clean the inside of the cup and dish, and then the outside will also be clean. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites." Are you seeing a pattern? "You are like whitewashed tombs, which look beautiful on the outside, but on the inside are full of the bones of the dead and everything unclean." In the same way, on the outside, you appear to people as righteous, but on the inside, you are full of hypocrisy and wickedness. Jesus has some harsh things to say to those of us that are not full of grace. As a follower of Christ, it's been very easy for me most of the time. For me to say that I've been perfect would make me a hypocrite. It's been very easy for me to extend grace to others because I've looked at my own life, the things that God has had to look past in my heart, in my mind, in my actions, and I know that Jesus has looked at those things and said, "Son, I love you. You're forgiven." And when I have a really good picture of my sinful nature, it makes it very easy to show compassion to others. And I think that's where we find a path to avoiding hypocrisy in our own lives, is to really be honest about where we are in relationship to Jesus. And quite honestly, students, you and I, we're just forgiven, blessed children of the King. We're lucky enough that he would call us his child. And when we have that perspective, it changes the way that we'll interact with each other. We'll offer much grace. And when you're offering grace, Element, I'm telling you, you'll never find yourself in a seat of hypocrisy, because instead of pointing a finger at one of your classmates and going, hey, look, you shouldn't be doing X, Y, and Z, you find yourself putting an arm around them and going, look, I understand that X, Y, and Z are really hard to navigate in life, and I'm walking through that too. What if we walk through that together with the help of Jesus? I think that's where you're going to find some hope. I think that's where you'll find yourselves being able to avoid that label of hypocrisy. And the best piece is you'll find yourself in a place where you can offer beautiful grace to yourself and to the people around you. Guys, we're praying for 3,000 students to find a saving relationship with Jesus Christ. The quickest way to that place is to have an army of students like you, being love unlimited, offering grace to the people in your classrooms and around in your activities. So go and be love unlimited. Go and be the grace of Jesus Christ.